Alpha 2 Phase 3 is well underway. You're either loving it or watching from the sidelines to see if Intrepid can actually pull this off in the long run. Settlements are growing, players are crafting and killing everything in sight, but then what? What are you going to be testing once you've done it all? Let's break down what's coming to Alpha 3 for the remainder of 2025, and what Intrepid Studios is hoping will keep you logging back in. We heard in August's development update about the dev team's next major milestone, the Harbinger Engines of Chaos update, bringing us new corrupted zones that will appear in the world based on player behavior, and better yet, whether those zones spread or are contained is all in the hands of players to decide. New enemies, new rare resources, and possibly the first real system that will make good on Intrepid's promise of a world that reacts to the actions of its users. But it didn't stop there. Alongside this, we also heard some smaller details about updates to boats, fishing, the upcoming summoner class, and while the word beta was thrown around, we didn't get any firm details or dates on the end of the alpha phase. All of these new additions will be developed alongside weekly updates and hotfixes to the game, as they balance out the challenges players are facing with the current state of it all. So let's talk about details on what's to come first with Harbingers. Work has already started on this update. Intrepid were very brave here, giving us more dates to hold them to, with an expected release of the Harbinger update on the 18th of November, just over 2 months from now. First, the backstory and updates on narrative. The Harbinger update brings with it more lore on the faction known as the Ancients, a powerful enemy that had previously come to the world and decimated all civilizations existing at the time, forcing those that remained to flee through the massive gates you now see when you first spawn into the world. This is a faction that spreads chaos and corruption wherever they go, said to have left behind markers that would notify them if civilization returned to Vera. We're now here. They've come to know it and will be sending Harbingers to sow the seeds of chaos. This update should go some way towards building out the lore of this world in more detail. During the discussion, the devs highlighted that they've doubled their internal narrative team and have the vast majority of their art resources focused on building out these Harbinger locations and the introduction of corruption zone mechanics. They also mentioned that the update will benefit from the revamping of their narrative systems, as well as events and questing with new tools at their disposal that should support them in developing storyline quests and content faster. We didn't get a good detailing of the new tools available to them, but the narrative director spoke about wanting to bring the dynamic world feeling with this update, which is a promise Ashes continues to make, but is yet to implement. So this update will be quite telling of their ability to achieve dynamic world states and manage them over time. But enough about the story, let's talk gameplay. Essentially, corrupted zones and the arrival of Harbingers will work like this. As players complete actions within a zone, upgrading and interacting with settlements, crafting legendary gear and engaging in wars, a hidden corruption meter will be ticking along in the background out of sight. Once that corruption meter hits a certain threshold, an incursion zone may appear. This zone will then last for a certain period of time, and the players in the world must complete a series of objectives to prevent the incursion from taking hold. If they complete the objectives, they'll remove that corrupted space. But if they fail to address it, the incursion will become a foothold, likely growing in size and then becoming more challenging to remove, requiring players to complete a different series of objectives in order to take it down. These zones will be PvX, meaning PvE and PvP enabled. Some areas will be PvE only, so you can engage in this even if you disliked forced flagged PvP, but we did hear that the best rewards, the best materials, are likely to require some risk and maybe in the PvX zones only. We'll have to wait to find out just how available those resources will be, however. We learned that these corrupted zones can grow to cover up to 40% of a zone's playable space, which is pretty massive, and they will grow and shrink based on player interaction. If your settlement doesn't want this corruption to spread in their zone, they'll need to take action. Corrupted zones will impact on known points of interest, changing the mobs or other aspects of the location. They will disrupt trade and travel routes, and can also change the resource spawns in the area, possibly changing them to corrupted variants or other versions of the same materials. This will be one of the major gameplay loops, farming these locations for specific corrupted materials or newly spawned materials, which could massively impact on how trade occurs in the world. But while some players may want to farm those resources, others may have needed the regular materials that were previously in the area. These zones could disrupt really valuable points of interest or farming locations, and if these zones are impacting on guild or settlements' favorite spots, they may want to see them removed. I do hope that the materials in these zones aren't so valuable that it becomes pointless to remove them. What Intrepid are going for here is to create player friction and cooperation. Work together to clear the corruption and keep your zone in order, or try to sabotage others clearing corruption to let it grow and gather those materials when they become available. It's a fine balance, and I'm curious to see if they can nail it. If the zone is too good or too punishing, players will naturally flock to keep or destroy them. Finding a nice balance here could really bring the world alive and create interesting player interactions. These zones will bring interesting new challenges. We heard briefly about an ancient raid boss called the Ancient One, who will have different variants based on location, which sounds like it could be tied to these mechanics, but it was not confirmed. I quite like the concept behind this update. Dynamically emerging corruption zones will draw player attention. It'll cause friction between groups who want different things from the zone, and it will really help to flesh out a world that has struggled to find a solid identity as it grows in alpha. If Intrepid can pull off this update as they described it, I'll be genuinely impressed, especially if it delivers on promise of a more dynamic world. It may need some balancing, don't expect perfection on release, this is still an alpha, but if they nail that foundation, it'll be worth some praise. This is going to be the major content update we'll be seeing in 2 months' time. But alongside this, we got what they referred to as the cherries on top. This is extra content updates that are also in the works and also in line to be released in November on the 18th, but we got much less detail on these. Stephen clarified in the Q&A that from now on, they will be trying to release packs of content at the end of their milestones. So instead of releasing these as they're done, essentially drip feeding them, they'll instead come together as a whole. This is for additional quality assurance on their end, and my guess is that they also hope that this will bring back larger waves of players as they hit those milestones. But you may get opportunities to test these on the PTR for those in the alpha, but you'll need to stay tuned for when those testing opportunities arise. So the first and most obvious one you'll be waiting on, the Summoner class, the final primary class archetype to be released. We didn't get anything other than the implication it should come on the 18th of November. Sorry, I wish I had more there. We heard about open sea fishing that will apparently have a large impact on the game. I'll be interested to see how that lands and what impact it has, but maybe I'm just not the fisherman here. Alongside open sea fishing, we'll be getting ship components and a brand new ship type with its own unique attachment slots. Some of these components include a radar, which is associated with the new ship, as well as a fish holding tank. With this, there will also be an expansion to the ocean, as well as expansion to freshwater fishing and the associated mini-games. Next, we'll be seeing the Renkai race introduced. I wish they'd implement some racial bonuses, even in the interim, so we had something to set them apart, but more options is always a win. We'll be seeing new world bosses, the Ancient One I referenced earlier, as well as a large Scorpion boss in development. Mules are of course still on the way to help players transport crates and resources. I'm sure we'll continue to see economy balancing around that. And the second last point they raised is the ongoing polish and updates to the world, lighting, and the game's general performance. That's going to be standard throughout the alpha and beta. They're always going to be looking to improve performance, improve lighting, and polish and update the world. And talking of beta, the word was thrown around. Intrepid are currently looking at their internal criteria for beta before they set expectations with the community. They didn't give us a time frame, but it's good to hear it's on their mind. They've obviously got to the point of being in their final alpha phase. They're confirming the plans for the remainder of this alpha, and then at what point they believe they'll be able to land in beta. They spoke about continuing to add more resources, improve internal efficiencies within their teams, and gather new tools for them as well. This was somewhat refreshing for me. It felt like they were coming across with a focus on continuous improvement and seemed to be learning from some past missteps. Ultimately, the Harbinger Engines of Chaos milestone they're pushing for sounds like a really solid addition to the alpha. It will demonstrate dynamic world states, create more opportunities for player interaction, and show us how Vera will change and be shaped with these player interactions. Given this is a sandbox style MMO, if they can show us good promise here, it will only serve to help them show that this game has incredible potential. Thanks so much for checking out the video. If you liked it, hit the button to help me out. If you want to keep up to speed on Ashes, sub to the channel. I plan to keep checking in when they have larger updates worth discussing, and we'll keep you in the loop as they progress. If you're looking for even more content, I stream right here on YouTube and Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 PM Australian Western Standard Time. Feel free to come hang out and enjoy a variety of games. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think the Harbingers Engines of Chaos update sounds good? Do you think these corrupted zones are going to create interesting player behavior? Or do you think they're going to end up being just another point of interest? I personally see a lot of potential here, but we need to see it realized. Until then, guys, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.